Lisa Keller was scrolling through a pilot's forum when a listing froze her hand. 1968 Cessna 182, tail number N4471D, for sale by a Dallas broker.
That's David's plane. N4471D. He flew it for 30 years. And the contact number, that's Joshua's cell.
She grabbed her car keys and drove to the county airfield, her chest tight with a dread she couldn't name yet. The hangar, she'd rented for 2 decades, stood at the end of the row. The lock on the side door was different. She used her spare key and shouldered the heavy door open. The air inside was still and cold. Sunlight striped the concrete floor. Where the Cessna should have sat, there was only a dark oil stain. No propeller, no wings, no tail with the number she'd memorized. Just emptiness.
He sold it. Joshua sold his father's plane without telling me.
She pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over Joshua's name. This was the moment. She realized the betrayal was already done, and she had no idea how deep it went. She pressed the call button and held her breath. Joshua answered on the second ring.
Mom, I was just about to call you.
Where is your father's Cessna, Joshua? It's listed for sale by a Dallas broker.
It's complicated. The broker said he could get a good price fast.
You sold it without telling me? That plane was in a trust. You had no right.
I needed the cash. I've been trading crypto. This was my chance to get back on top.
You gambled your father's legacy on cryptocurrency. Do you have any idea what you've done?
I paid the broker 20 grand to expedite. I thought I could make enough to put it back before you noticed.
Listen to yourself. You lied. You stole. And you threw away everything your father built.
Lisa ended the call and stood there, fury hardening into a single clear thought. Joshua would not get away with this. At the FAA regional office, Inspector Donald was working through a stack of airworthiness transfer requests.
Tail number N4471D. He hadn't seen that registration in over 30 years.
It was David Keller's plane. Donald had been his student in 1989 and remembered the tiny carving on the rudder hinge. He accessed the FAA registry and pulled the chain of title. The aircraft was owned by a marital aviation trust.
Lisa Keller's signature is required. That form can't be valid without it.
Donald reached for the phone and dialed the number listed for the registered owner. Lisa answered on the third ring.
Mrs. Keller, this is Donald from the FAA. I am reviewing a transfer on N4471D. Something isn't adding up.
I just found out my son sold it. I never authorized anything. He told me it was an estate liquidation.
The plane is in a trust, Mrs. Keller. The rules require your direct signature. This paperwork doesn't look like it.
Lisa gripped the phone tighter. The FAA was telling her what she already feared. The sale was invalid. Donald hung up and slid the transfer form under a desk magnifier. The signature caught his eye immediately.
No pen impression. Just uniform toner specs from a home printer.
He ran a finger over the line. Perfectly flat. This wasn't a legitimate wet signature. It was a low-quality scan. Donald typed a freeze order into the FAA system, blocking any further processing of the airworthiness certificate. He picked up the phone and called Lisa back immediately.
Mrs. Keller, I've stopped the transfer. The signature on your son's paperwork is forged. A scanned copy.
Forged? He went that far?
I am sending you the documents. You need to see what was filed in your name.
Lisa opened the email attachment and stared at the blurry, pixelated signature above her printed name. The official FAA notice confirmed the freeze. For now, the plane belonged to no one but the trust and Lisa. Within hours, broker Phil Carlson received an automated FAA notification. The airworthiness transfer for N4471D had been frozen pending investigation.
What did you do? The FAA just flagged the sale. I've never had a deal frozen like this.
The FAA? That's impossible. I signed everything.
Joshua ended the call with the broker and immediately dialed Lisa. She answered after a single ring.
Mom, you need to call the FAA and tell them it was a mistake. The whole deal is falling apart.
It's not a mistake, Joshua. I saw the scanned signature. You forged my name on a federal document.
I was just trying to move things along. Dad would have wanted the plane to be used.
Your father trusted you, and you turned his trust into a printed forgery for crypto. I will not undo this.
You are choosing a stupid plane over your own son. After everything I've done for this family.
Lisa didn't reply. She let the silence speak. Joshua hung up, knowing the rift between them had never been wider. The next morning, a certified FAA envelope arrived. Lisa tore it open and read the official determination.
Sale declared void. Fraud suspected. Transfer permanently suspended. The words blurred through a wash of relief and anger.
Her phone rang. Donald's voice was steady on the other end.
Mrs. Keller, I've sent you the full trust document. You'll see Clause 7. Your signature is the only one that counts.
So legally, the plane never left the trust. It's still ours?
Exactly. The forged signature means the sale is void. The plane belongs to the trust, and you control the trust.
Lisa opened the attachment on her tablet. The trust document was clear. Her wet signature was non-negotiable.
David built this protection around me. Even after his death, he made sure I had the last word.
She placed the document on the table, her hands steady. For the first time since the hangar door swung open, she felt the ground beneath her. The plane was legally hers again. Now, she had to decide what to do with the power that came with it. Late that afternoon, Mark Reynolds, the Dallas businessman who had wired $145,000 for the Cessna, opened an email that made his blood run cold.
Title defective? The broker says the plane wasn't yours to sell. Where's my money?
Listen, this is a paperwork mix-up. I can straighten it out with the FAA.
I don't want promises. You have 48 hours before I sue.
Joshua gripped his phone, his mind racing. The truth was, he didn't have a cent of it.
The crypto. It's all locked up. I am underwater.
He logged into his trading account and stared at the screen. 3 months of losses totaling $82,000. 0 available to transfer.
Mr. Reynolds, there's no money. I put it all into cryptocurrency and lost it.
Then I'll take the plane and everything else. My lawsuit will wipe you out.
Joshua dropped the phone and sank onto his mattress. The lawsuit was now a certainty. Joshua forced himself upright and opened his laptop. The crypto trading platform loaded, and his stomach dropped.
No, this can't be right. The entire position. Liquidated.
The balance read 11,042. Everything else, over 130,000 reals, had vanished in a cascade of failed trades.
I paid the broker 20 grand out of that. I have nothing left.
He closed the laptop and stared at the wall. The buyer's threat echoed. His apartment, cluttered with energy drinks and overdue bills, pressed in on him.
They'll take everything. I am finished.
He thought of calling Lisa, imagining her voice. But the image of her cold fury stopped him. The lawsuit would come. The debt would bury him. And the only person who could have stopped it had already made her choice. Joshua Keller, at 42, had lost everything. His mother's trust, his father's plane, and every dollar he'd stolen. Lisa drove to the airfield that evening, needing to stand in the empty hangar again. She scanned the dusty shelves and found an old logbook she'd never noticed. She pulled it down and opened it. David's handwriting spilled across the pages.
Maintenance records, flight logs, and then on the last page, words about the trust.
The entry read, "I've placed the plane in a marital trust, so Lisa always holds the final say."
He never explained it to me. He assumed I'd understand when the time came.
She clutched the logbook, her eyes glistening with a fierce new resolve.
I won't bail Joshua out. He has to face the consequences.
She placed the logbook in her bag. It was the evidence she needed, and the strength. She closed the hangar door and drove home, ready to defend David's trust and let her son feel the weight of his choices. The next morning, Donald pulled into Lisa's driveway, carrying a thick manila folder.
Mrs. Keller, I brought the complete file. You need to see exactly what your son filed with the FAA.
He spread the documents across her kitchen table. The forged signature, the voided sale, the trust clause in David's own handwriting.
This is the scan he submitted. No pen pressure, just toner on paper. Compare it to a real signature.
David built this protection around me. Even the trust language leaves no room for doubt.
This is elder fraud, Mrs. Keller. You can file a criminal complaint. I'll support it with my testimony.
Elder fraud against my own son. I never thought I'd hear those words.
Donald slid a printed form across the table. It's your choice, but the evidence is undeniable.
I need to think, but thank you, Donald, for everything.
After Donald left, Lisa placed the folder in her safe. She hadn't decided yet, but the evidence was now hers. The following Monday, Mark Reynolds filed a civil suit against Joshua Keller in Dallas County Court, seeking $145,000 in damages for fraud and conversion. A process server handed Joshua the summons. He stood in his doorway, reading the complaint with shaking hands.
This is impossible. I can't survive this.
He stumbled back inside and called the only person he thought might still care.
I told you not to call me, unless you were ready to face what you did.
Mom, please. They're going to take everything. I'll lose my apartment. I'll be bankrupt. Can't you just drop the FAA thing? Let the sale go through.
You want me to commit fraud for you? To let you profit from a crime?
I am your son. Doesn't that mean anything?
It means I taught you better. Goodbye, Joshua.
He ended the call. The silence of his apartment was absolute. There was no lifeline left. Lisa walked into the county police station the following afternoon, her husband's logbook and the FAA folder in her arms.
I'd like to file a criminal complaint for elder fraud and forgery.
The desk sergeant called a detective, who led her to a small interview room. She laid out the documents on the metal table. The trust, the scanned signature, the FAA determination. The detective examined the pages, his expression hardening as he saw the forgery.
The FAA inspector who flagged it is willing to testify. My son forged my signature to sell a plane worth $145,000.
The detective handed her a complaint form. She signed where he pointed, her pen pressing hard into the paper.
This is the hardest signature I've ever written.
He told her they would investigate and forward the case to the district attorney. Lisa left the station feeling heavier than when she arrived, but also stronger. The law was now involved. Less than 2 hours after Lisa returned from the station, her doorbell rang. She knew before opening it.
You filed charges? Against your own son?
I filed the truth. You committed fraud, Joshua. I can't lie for you anymore.
Please, I'll do anything. I'll pay it back somehow. Just drop the complaint.
There's no money, Joshua. You've lost it all, and you lost my trust the moment you scanned my name.
I was scared. I thought I could fix it.
You broke the law. Now you have to answer for it. Your father would have told you the same thing.
So you are just giving up on me?
I am letting you go, because holding you up any longer would destroy us both.
She closed the door. The lock clicked, and Joshua stood alone on the porch, his pleas swallowed by the evening silence. The next morning, Lisa drove to Carlson Aviation Sales in Dallas. Phil Carlson was behind his desk, his face ashen.
Mrs. Keller, I had no idea the signature was forged.
I don't want talk. The logbooks and the keys. Now.
They're here. I never should have taken your son's word.
He slid a thick envelope across the desk.
You took 20 grand from my son to expedite a fraudulent sale. This doesn't absolve you.
Lisa took the envelope, turned, and walked out of the office. In her car, she opened the envelope. The keys fell onto her lap, cold and familiar. She lifted the logbook, its leather worn from David's hands. She flipped open the logbook to the entry where David had written about the trust. Her eyes hardened with purpose. The plane was safe. Lisa drove to the storage hangar, the weight of the keys a reminder that the Cessna was hers again. She pulled open the heavy sliding door, and the afternoon sun caught the tail number, N4471D. Just as she remembered, she walked around the high wing, tracing her hand along the cool aluminum. The plane was undamaged, waiting for her. At the rudder hinge, she knelt. The tiny inscription was still there, etched into the steel.
To Lisa, forever. He carved these letters with his own hands.
She pressed her whole palm against the metal, as if she could feel his hand through the years.
You never forgot, David, even in a hinge.
Tears slid down her cheeks, but she made no sound. She let the grief and love mix inside her.
This plane can't just sit in a hangar. It needs to teach again, to fly.
She stood, wiped her face, and looked at the plane one last time. The decision formed, solid and clear. Lisa pulled out her phone and dialed Skyward Aviation, the flight school where David had first learned to fly. A warm voice answered. Richard Harris, the school director, had known David for years.
Mrs. Keller, it's so good to hear from you. We still talk about David. His passion built this school.
Richard, I have his Cessna 182, N 4471D. It's fully airworthy, and I want it to be a teaching aircraft for your students.
You are serious? That plane is a legend. We'd be honored.
I want it to carry his name, to teach students the way he taught me. No charge, just a promise it will fly.
Absolutely. We'll dedicate it at our spring ceremony. David would be so proud.
Lisa's throat tightened, but she managed to smile.
I'll bring the logbooks and the keys next week. Thank you, Richard.
After she hung up, she held the keys in her palm. The Cessna would have a new mission, but it would always belong to David. The civil suit against Joshua Keller opened in a quiet Dallas courtroom. Mark Reynolds' attorney presented the voided title, the broker's testimony, and the FAA's forgery determination. The judge studied the scanned signature and the trust document without comment. Within an hour, the ruling came down. The judgment ordered Joshua Keller to pay $145,000 in damages to Mark Reynolds for fraud. Joshua's head dropped lower. He didn't speak. His court-appointed attorney informed the judge he had no meaningful assets and only $11,000 to his name.
Bankruptcy was now a certainty. She felt no relief, only the exhaustion of watching her son destroy himself.
Lisa rose from the bench and slipped out before the hearing ended. The civil debt would follow Joshua for years. The dedication ceremony at Skyward Aviation drew a crowd of instructors, students, and old friends. Banners fluttered in the spring breeze. The Cessna sat under a white cloth, its tail number hidden, but its legacy undeniable.
David Keller built this plane with his hands, and he trusted it to teach. Today, I give it back to the sky.
She pulled the cloth away with Donald's help. The new paint gleamed with the school's insignia alongside the original tail number. Applause erupted. Richard Harris stepped forward, beaming.
In honor of David's service, we named Donald Honorary Chief Instructor.
Donald, visibly moved, accepted a polished wooden plaque.
This plane taught me to trust my instruments. David taught me to trust my heart. I'll try to do the same for every student who sits in that cockpit.
Lisa stood beside the propeller, her hand resting on the cowling. For the first time in months, she felt the weight lift. The plane was flying again in purpose. As the crowd dispersed, Donald walked Lisa to the side of the hangar, away from the noise.
You know, the first time I flew with David, I forgot to close the cowl flaps. He didn't yell. He just pointed and said, "Trust the checklist."
He never yelled at anyone. That wasn't his way. He taught by believing in you.
That little carving on the hinge, he showed me the night he finished it. He said, it was his promise to you.
Lisa's eyes glistened. She touched the emblem on the cowling lightly. Across the tarmac, a student pilot pulled on her headset and climbed into the left seat.
That's what he wanted. Not a museum piece, but a living cockpit where someone nervous would learn to trust themselves.
He'd have loved this day. The plane back in the air teaching new pilots.
The Cessna's engine turned over, a deep familiar rumble that filled the quiet airfield. Lisa closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. David was still here, in every vibration, in every lesson, about to take flight. As the sun dipped toward the hangars, Lisa walked to the rudder one last time. She traced the engraved letters with her fingertip, the same gesture she'd made decades ago, the same promise.
Goodbye, David, but not forever.
She straightened, brushed a tear from her cheek, and walked toward the parking lot without looking back. Without looking back, inside her car, she paused before the ignition. Her eyes lifted to the rearview mirror. The Cessna sat proudly on the ramp, its tail number catching the last gold of the day.
It's where it belongs, and so am I.
She turned the key, and the engine hummed beneath her. As she pulled onto the county road, the airfield shrank behind her, but the rumble of another engine followed, a Cessna starting its climb. She smiled. The plane was flying again. So was she. Lisa unlocked her front door and walked into the quiet living room. From her bag, She took out a framed photograph she'd kept in the hangar for years. It was David, grinning beside the Cessna on a crisp autumn morning, the tail number sharp behind him. She set it on the mantel, next to his old flight cap.
You are home now, right where you belong.
She stepped back, then moved to the window seat with a cup of tea. Outside, the evening sky turned lavender. Birds crossed the tree line.
The plane is teaching. I am remembering. Both are enough.
She took a slow sip and let the warmth settle in her chest. For the first time since the hangar had been empty, her heart was full. The Cessna sat on the ramp as the morning sun climbed, its fuselage cool and waiting. A student pilot ran a hand along the wing, then climbed into the left seat. The engine coughed and settled into a steady hum. The instructor in the right seat nodded, and the plane rolled forward. Its wheels lifted off the asphalt cleanly, leaving the ground behind. Against a golden sky, the Cessna banked gently, the school insignia visible on its side. The tail number, N4471D, gleamed, a permanent part of the air. Inside, a new generation of pilots learned the same lessons David once taught. From her window seat, miles away, Lisa heard a distant engine and smiled. The plane had been sold, stolen, and nearly lost. But it was never gone. It had always been waiting to teach again.